everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast and our channel, Paws On Animation.
Today we're covering another Disney classic film, The Sword and the Stone.
Now, instead of a fairy tale film this time, we have a Disney take on the legend of Arthur, Merlin, and the Sword of Excalibur. And sure enough, it delivers an endless Disney fun. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and include notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
And thank you so much for joining us, subscribing, sharing our videos, and commenting. We appreciate you so much, our specials. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, The Sword of the Stone is actually a 1963 animated Disney film. It's considered a musical fantasy comedy, that's a mouthful.
Right.
And was released by Buena Vista Distribution back in the 60s. And it's actually based on a book with the same name. And Disney first acquired the rights to the novel in 1939.
Yes, and really surprised to learn about that because we actually ended up learning about this when we got the DVD, and they had a little bonus section where you get to learn how the production of the movie came to be. This was done in a similar fashion like The Black Cauldron. Only in this time, only there were 3 books to adapt. They only did the first book, and they had a purposefully different direction from the book. But it still remains being its own thing, and it does enough of the story so it still feels familiar.
Yeah. Now, this book was originally written by T.H. White, and the story written for the Disney movie was done by Bill Peet. When this was released back in December, actually on Christmas in 1963, they had a budget of $3 million and it earned over $22 million in the U.S. and in Canada.
Wow.
So it did well, but not as well as some of the other Disney movies we've covered from previous decades.
Right.
Where the profit was just unimaginable.
Right.
This one did well though, and even by today's standards, we got a movie that cost $3 million to make, you earn $22 million. Well, that's a blockbuster.
Still, yeah.
Lots of money over.
Yeah, for sure. And we had heard about this movie for so long. We know this is a lot of people's favorites. And one thing that's really different about it, we mentioned in the beginning, is that it's not a fairy tale based movie. They didn't adapt a Grimm's fairy tale or anything. They went after King Arthur, which was, I think, the only other time they tackled something like that, aside from a Avalon High adaptation that they unfortunately botched up when they did make it. But for this, it still had its Disney twist on it. They had their musical numbers, but they were all fun and silly little songs as you watch the film. And you kind of get lost when you watch the movie because unlike some of the other past films where when they feature this fantasy setting, there's this big story where they gotta defeat the villain by the end. Well, there technically isn't really a main villain in this movie. You had a villain that showed up as more of an obstacle, and then maybe a hungry wolf that didn't even know was after them. And that's it. There was no big bad to defeat to finish the story in here.
Unfortunately, this was the last animated film from Walt Disney Productions released during Walt Disney's lifetime. So this was the last one he actually got to see. And it's funny you mentioned that because the big bad villain, big and bad, but she wasn't like previous Disney villainesses
right.
or villains, but the scenes were hilarious.
Absolutely,
Merlin
definitely.
was encountering with her. So I have to say that originally the film received mixed reviews, but it's, as you said, has become a favorite. I couldn't believe that I hadn't seen this movie, that I hadn't seen it as a kid. And then we watched it, and I'm like, okay, rewind the scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was so much fun.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it. And we got it from the library, guys, and took it back, and I was like, oh, I wish we had taken it back to the library so I could watch it again.
Right.
But it was so much fun.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Well, it is a fun movie, I should say. The movie still exists.
And
it's so much fun.
Right. And it's not even that long. And we have mentioned in the Pinocchio podcast, when you see it, that we felt that towards the end of the film, felt like it was a little too long. Well, the difference between this movie and Pinocchio is that Pinocchio had an extra 10 minutes on it, while Sword in the Stone remained its 70-some minute runtime. So it looks like back then, during these early decades of Disney films, seems like 70 to 80 minutes was the correct amount of time to have the stories, because having it any longer, it seems to drag too long, which is a little ironic now with the movies lasting nearly 2 hours, and then half the movie's unnecessary and the other half is the story you were waiting on.
In this version of the story of Merlin and King Arthur,
right,
who isn't a king yet, the king dies without an heir, and so along comes Orphan.
They call him Wart, but his name is Arthur.
Well,
it's like, why is he Wart?
But he's considered an orphan.
Right.
And Merlin, and I keep saying, if you guys have seen the BBC Merlin, Arthur kept saying his name like that, so that's why.
Right.
I'm saying it.
And then found out there's a character in here that calls Merlin like that. So it was all this time they were referencing the Disney movie.
Yes. So Uther Pendragon died without an heir to his throne. And the sword, as you know, Excalibur, appears in a stone. And people keep trying to get it out and they can't. And then years later, an 11-year-old orphan named Arthur, commonly called Wart, as you said.
Right.
He ends up becoming a squire.
Right.
Of Kay.
Yeah, he's a bit of he's a bumbling idiot.
Yes.
But
And then Merlin comes along and helps to train him, and they have so much fun. The dancing dishes, Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And what we kept realizing is that in this movie, there kept being references to other Disney movies that had come prior.
Right.
Which was pretty clever during the time this movie came out.
Right. And then there were even movies that would come out later that were based off of this. Like, one big one we realized is when Merlin and Arthur turned into fish. We realized they were doing this was like the precursor to Finding Nemo.
Yes.
Decades before Pixar even existed.
Yes. And the dad's name in Nemo was
Merlin.
So yes, it was fantastic when we were seeing that. And so you have the battle with Merlin and Mem, which is one of the funniest parts of this movie.
Yes, with the little
absolutely
shape-shifting contest.
Yes, and then we both were realizing how there was reference to this in the Wish original concept. Yes, guys, we're going there. And we're like, oh my gosh, they tried to do this again.
Yes,
and shut it down.
Yeah, and if you're wondering which one is where you see stars turn to different animals.
And you'll be seeing that.
Right, they're running from the queen and it's constantly shape-shifting. Well, when we watched this, they were doing a sort of battle of magic and they kept changing to different animals to try to top each other. So they were definitely doing a shout out to that. And it was going to come again later at the end of the movie with the monster battle.
Yes. So after that, Arthur gets the opportunity at the tournament to pull the sword out of the stone. Not for himself, but to help someone else. Kay. And then he's able to pull it out. He's crowned king, sits on the throne with Archimedes, and then he's able to become the king, the legend foresees.
Right.
But it was such a fun telling and such a fun movie to do this with. So many studios, countless studios, have done their versions of the King Arthur story. And so many books have been written.
Right.
So many movies have been done. So many television shows, including again the BBC Merlin, have been done. And it's just one of the most refreshing and fun versions that anyone probably can ever remember.
Right.
Especially animated, because it's being done animated as well.
Right. And then we were surprised to see that so far Disney has not done anything else for this particular film. There thankfully has not been a live action remake. There hasn't been a revival TV show or reimagine or anything. The closest we've gotten is a part of a book series called Twisted Tales, where they would do what if scenarios like Marvel and apply it to Disney films. And basically, the closest they've done is show Merlin, Madam Mim in magic school for no one asked for, and then another one where it shows what happened when Arthur became king and what if he was already under attack because he became king in like 10 minutes. And it's like, I think it's best we don't touch this anymore because you're coming up with things that didn't make sense.
That's true. And another reason they may have done it is because they've done so many spin-offs. As a result of this, Disney has basically turned this into a franchise after the movie. They, of course, mentioned, as you mentioned, they had opening of a unit in Disneyland Park. But they also had a set of comics.
Oh, that's
and
better.
Appeared in numerous comics in the U.S. Also, Merlin, Archimedes, and Mim debuted in Italian Disney comic scene.
Oh, wow.
They have been in video games. They've appeared in House of Mouse.
Oh, that's true. You see him in the background.
Merlin's a supporting character in the Kingdom Hearts series. They're and also in the prequel. And he's a world builder in Disney Magic Kingdoms.
Oh, that makes sense.
There was a live action adaptation in 2015.
There was?
Live action film spinoff in 2021.
There was?
An announcement was made, and filming took place at United Kingdom. So they have
I didn't even know.
turned this into a franchise. And instead of redoing it, thinking it's not, they've made it an opportunity to have a franchise like, or I should say very similar to 101 Dalmatians.
Right. So, yeah, this is definitely one of those classes we didn't expect to love so much, but we do. And we are still having a lot of fun watching a lot of these classic films. And I remember I had seen the movie once, but it was so far back. It was back when Netflix used to have Disney movies, classic Disney movies, and they were easy access. That's how long it's been since I've seen it.
The same way they used to have all the DC TV shows, animated shows and things, and all the Ben 10 series,
all the cool stuff.
So quickly, we're gonna give a shout out to the voice cast, as we always love to do. Sebastian Cabot is Sir Ector, and at the time, Sebastian Cabot was this prolific actor, and Carl Svensson as Merlin, Ricky Sorensen as Richard Retherman, and Robert Retherman as Arthur.
Yes.
The boy who grew up to be the legendary King Arthur. You had Junius Matthews as Archimedes, Jenny Tyler as the little girl squirrel. Oh, that was funny. That quickly. Martha Wentworth as Madam Mim. That's her proper title.
Madam Mim. Okay.
Norman Alden as Sir Kay. Alan Napier as Sir Pellinor, and he's another actor that was prolific during the time. Thurl Ravenscroft voiced Sir Bart, one of the knights seen at the jousting tournament. You also had Jimmy McDonald, Barbara Jo Allen as the scullery maid, and Tudor Owen voiced one of the knights and nobles. And I don't recall if these people got credits in the film. I don't recall.
If they did, it was probably in the beginning because they had opening credits before the film started this time.
But this is really a fun movie and deserves the love that it receives. This is one of those Disney movies that I'm probably going to look on Amazon for now and buy because I really enjoyed it that much. So if you've seen The Sword in the Stone, let us know in the comments. Did you see it years ago? Did you see it recently? Are you happy there hasn't been a reboot? Have you engaged in any of the reading the comics or going to the attractions at one of the Disney theme parks? Have you played the video games? Have you seen any of the House of Mouse references? Let us know. And if you haven't, this is one you gotta see. It's a lot of fun, and you'll be laughing so hard and enjoying it. And it's definitely, again, a refreshing take on the King Arthur legend. Although some researchers say that Arthur may have truly been a real person.
And if you haven't already, subscribe for updates and movie videos for your anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for another week of Disney Classics. We're having so much fun doing this once a month right now. So stay tuned for others this week. And as always,
you are special. Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.